Hello, welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets 2025 preview. I guess 2024 fall to close out the year here as the DP World Tour goes from the Tour Championship directly into its kind of swing season here, starting in Australia. We're going to do our preview show that we have done the last few years with success. I'm joined as always, by Tom Jacobs. Tom, how are we doing?
I'm good, Sky. I'm doing better events when Rosner closed out the DP World Tour Championships, but wasn't to be, and not a massive surprise with who was up there. But yeah, I'd have been better off. We looked like we were in a good shape, and yeah, didn't happen.
For real. I mean, he played quite well. 36-hole leader, or right there in the thick of it, and I mean, he played himself into a PGA Tour card. So incredible kudos for him. Unfortunately, Guido fell flat the last couple of weeks, outside looking in for him. But we're going to be focusing on, and one of the specialists we bring in, this time of year is our friend at Bradley_Todd. Brad Todd, if you have not found him on Twitter before, Brad is awesome, has moved over to Patreon in the last few years for his full picks and selections. You can find him weekly with Tom on his Lost for Words podcast. Brad, how are we doing today, my friend?
Appreciate that. Welcome, Sky. That was very nice too. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm very good. Thanks for having me on again. Really enjoyed this last year, and got plenty to get stuck into, haven't we? So yeah, I'm excited to get stuck in.
And why I say specialist, and I mean, I've been talking to Brad probably since the COVID years, right? When the mini tours were hot, when, Outlaw Tour was in the thick of it. I mean, that's kind of our wheelhouse, right? Walking through mini tours like this. So it's a perfect show to have for us.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, that was shone a bit of light in a dark time, didn't it? The Outlaw Tour, Cactus Tour, and whatever, the Golden State Tour. God, that was good fun.
Oh man, I do miss those glory years. So that was some fun times, and we do our best rendition here, walking through the best graduates from the Challenge Tour. There is 22 of them this year. We're going to be each taking our favorite of the litter, and then we're going to be going through Q School Graduates 2 on some of our favorites here, and then we're going to preview PGA Tour cards who we like as a favorite, and as well as a long shot to make their way to the PGA Tour. Tom, you said you did listen back to our show this morning. Did we get everything 100% accurate last year?
Yeah, at least 97%. I think the only letdown was me saying Nick Backham was a long shot for a PGA Tour card. But look, it was actually, like, I listened back, and I don't really like listening back, if I'm being honest. Like, I like to kind of go into it with a fresh idea, but I wanted to kind of suss out kind of how we done and how we approach things and how that might differ this time around. And, I think we all kind of had quite strong picks on the PGA Tour side of things. I think, I went with Hoygar, which was a very obvious pick. You went with Nakajima, Sky. You were quite convinced he would go strong. And I think Brad, you went with Dan Bradbury as your kind of main guy there. And I think they all performed pretty well. I think my hesitancy was how much Nakajima would play. It turns out he did commit full time to the DP World Tour. Probably didn't play as many events as he probably could have done, and maybe that sort of affects him in the end. But he did get the win. Dan Bradbury got a win, both without getting PGA Tour cards, right? And whereas Rasmus Højgaard got a card, right? So I think we were on the right lines in that respect. The long shots, I think, is one of those ones where we wanted to, I mean, it's called a long shot for a reason, right? Like, we wanted to try and take someone that we look further down the page, and, do we think they can honestly do it? Yes, but also, the expectation of, this is going to be tough for them, and we sort of said as much. Q School one was a little bit more of a minefield, I think, just looking back at it, and I think that's going to be pretty similar this time around. Like, I think the Q School is 6 grueling rounds, right? And I don't think it's not the same way where, like, a Challenge Tour season where you get a whole season of form from a player and understanding what that player is. You're getting 6, low rounds and hoping they keep pace. And when someone like Eduardo Molinari, which we'll come on to, wins that tournament, it makes things a lot more difficult. So, yeah, like, I think this is so valuable. It's something that, really just made it easier for us. I mean, like, Jesper Svensson was the challenge. I went real homer picks last year. I went literally Rasmus Højgaard as a favourite and Jesper Svensson as a favourite for the Challenge Tour. Wasn't very imaginative at all. But I think that's okay. Like, I think it's okay to just pick the guys that you really think are going to do it, and as long as you give sound reasoning, then I think that's the main thing, Brad.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day, aren't we? I mean, you can get creative as much as you like, but we're trying to pick the best person who's got the best chance of getting that spot.
Yeah, and when I listened back, Sky, about we were sort of all kind of rooting for Matteo Manacero, but not one of us, had it on our radar that he was going to go on and get the PGA Tour card, which was, really exciting for him. And yeah, we've got plenty of stories to kind of recap, I guess.
The only struggle I have with this group is the lack of starts. That was a little bit more eye-opening for me in 2024 with some of these guys. I mean, the stop and start momentum they could get. I mean, there's no bigger Nicolo Galetti fans than Brad and I, and just waiting every single time to see if he's above that red line on the field page was a sweat all year long. Like, I believe some of these guys have that talent to get there if they have a string of consistent starts. And unfortunately, you need to play well early and just capitalize on reshuffles and getting up there via top 10 exemptions in order to get into a spot that you're going to get in the field, because it's not easy to make it from Q School. Or, I mean, realistically, you probably have to win. You have to win an event to really settle your shoes in over here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think the tough point is that, like Sky, as I mentioned as well, like Nakajima and Bradbury both won, don't get PGA Tour cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
You've
Whereas
got to be consistent on top of that win, haven't you? You've got to get a few top 10s. Well, probably a few more. And you've probably got to go close to winning another couple of times. That's where you build up the points.
Do you think about how someone like an Alexander Bjork got onto the tour, or Rosner and
Steady Eddie.
You've got to, be there every week, and then
don't miss many cuts, do they?
No, and then you just spike, right? That's the way forward.
Yeah. So let's do it. Let's slide over. So again, from the graduate standpoint, from the Challenge Tour, 1-2, I guess in theory would have been Rasmus Niergaard Peterson and then John Perry, and both of them actually created 2 extra spots on the Challenge Tour graduates because they were battlefield promotion guys, where they won 3 times on the Challenge Tour this year. So they are the clear favorites among the Challenge Tour graduates. And actually, Sky Sports had priced it up for this year. So in my opinion, and Rasmus Niergaard Peterson is the clear number 1 in the odds. Perry's a little bit further down there. Let's kick it, Brad. Do you want to go number 1 here for your favorite Challenge Tour graduate of the year?
Yeah, sure. Niergaard Peterson obviously jumps out as the obvious one. Leader of the Order of Merit, top amateur. Played golf in the US at Oklahoma State, and he's already shown, right, that he compete on the DP World Tour. A number of solid performances. 4th at the Dunhill Links, the standout. 7th at the BMW International, and he's had 5 further top 20s. So yeah, he looks a bit of an all-rounder. Got the length, great approach, tidy short game. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if he gets his PGA Tour card, and I would make him favourite. I think Sky have done right in pricing him up as favourite. But the slightly less obvious one, and this is going to be my pick, standout for me, and Sky, you know how much I'm fond of this guy, is Robin Williams. Who, I'm a long-term admirer of him. You could have had his DP World Tour card at the start of the year, lost out on a playoff to Jordan Gumberg. I was on him that week at 150 to 1. He threw it away down the stretch. It was a real brutal L. And Gumberg, he did not make the most of his opportunity. I don't think he's made like 3 or 4 cuts all year. I think tied 40th. It was his best finish on the Scandinavian mixed when I saw it earlier. So yeah, he hasn't taken advantage of it. But yeah, back to Robin Williams. I think a year on the Challenge Tour has probably done him the world of good. He's played lots of different types of courses across Europe, contended in Portugal, Czech Republic, Scotland, Spain, Northern Ireland. He didn't get the win, but he gave himself plenty of chances. And yeah, I think he is going to be better prepared for the DP World Tour this year. And yeah, like Niergaard Peterson, he has proven that he can compete at this level. He also finished in a tie for 4th with Peterson at the Dunhill Links. And as I mentioned earlier, he lost out in a playoff in South Africa. So yeah, he looks to have the all-round game with incredible power off the tee when needed. And he also strikes me as a player that loves a tough test, like a bit of a strategist. on the golf course. Like I always look at his page, Instagram page before any event that he's in, because he does these pre-tournament videos of what to expect of the course, how he's going to tackle it. I really like that. He doesn't do it every time, but he has done it quite a few times. It's really insightful. And so yeah, I think sky's the limit for this guy. And Neergaard Peterson, who I've also said, but yeah, I think Robin Williams. I'm looking at the odds. He's third favorite, 8-1, and I think he'd be my pick.
And that's where the discrepancy came in too. You look at somebody like that on the odds board. Now he was 14th on the Challenge Tour rankings. He had less starts than a lot of those guys. If I remember correctly, the way he kind of earned his way on there was some in those co-sanctioned Sunshine Tour Challenge Tour events, a third and an 11th, and then co-sanctioned the DP World Tour second, got him some of those starts on the Challenge Tour where he didn't let up all year long. So to finish 14th, skipping the final events of the year to win on the Sunshine Tour. Yeah, I mean, if you weren't picking him, Brad, he absolutely was my 1-1.
Was he yours as well?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I was on with you, sweating in your Discord as these guys found the links to watch to lose to Gumberg. Man, that was tough.
Oh, that was so painful. I think everyone in the Discord was just losing it, because I think he must have gumped it around the green twice. I was watching on a crappy stream. It was, oh God, I don't want to relive it, to be honest. Let's move on.
Yeah, amen. Tom, all right, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, just before we move on quickly, like I think one of the things about to support the Robin Williams case is exactly what Brad said, is he's kind of gone on and been really impressive since then. Like the second in the playoff, and you can sort of see that as he's done it once in South Africa. Can he carry it on? Fifth in Challenge to España, second at Cascada Challenge, fifth and third again across Challenge Tour, and then he comes and finishes fourth at the Dunhill Links, wins in Africa at the end of October. So a lot of really good stuff there. And to the counterpoint, Jordan Grunberg's missed 17 or 22 cuts since then and not finished better than tied 48th or whatever it was at Wentworth, which happens to be his best finish since then. So pretty much a freak result, right? For me, number one is Oliver Lindell. And this is a player that I think people will sort of class as a little bit of a, I don't know, someone that's just been around a little bit of a journeyman, but he's still so sort of like raw and young, right? Like he started so early in his career, Brad. You know, what was he, like 17 or something when he?
He was so hot when he first came out, yeah.
And he kind of didn't. He had a chance on the DP World Tour, didn't really take advantage of it, dropped back down, and he struggled for a long time. And then all of a sudden, you look at the way he's finished this season: 12th, 5th, 6th, 6th, 9th, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, and 4th. I was on in the Hangzhou Open, a couple of starts there, and you know, you just think, how is this guy not won? And it kind of drew the parallels to me of Jordan Spence just figuring it out in the second half of the season, and looking good. And I think he's got that kind of power. He's pretty effortless in that respect. And there are concerns. He isn't the full package, and he hasn't, you know, won that title on the Challenge Tour just yet. But he's been there. He's done it. He's been around for a long time now, and it's not going to be one of those like instant meteoric rises. But the way he's kind of ground it out and got back onto this stage, and I guess the one reason that there's a big discrepancy between like a Neergaard Peterson and a John Parry is everyone knows John Parry's been on the DP World Tour and struggled, and maybe the Challenge Tour is his level, whereas Lindell's had a little bit of a chance and then kind of gone away quite quickly. So really interested to see what the second half of Oliver Lindell's career looks like, because I think he's a top player. And if you read about him, he kind of had a lot going for him. He's still only 26. It's just because he's been around for so long that people kind of think more of him. I think he was, you know, champion in his home country when he was like 14 years of age. And if you actually, his website's quite insightful. If anyone hasn't looked on there, it kind of goes through his career and what he's done. And just probably wasn't ready, you know, in 2017 for the Challenge Tour. And like I think he just thought it was all going to come early, but he seems to be ready to go now. And I think he's very much prepared for this DP World Tour season. And to your point, Sky, about kind of like the reshuffles and things like that, luckily he's quite high up in the rankings, but he will need to probably hit the ground running quickly. He is that type of player, and I think it doesn't probably serve him great that he's going to be in Australia and South Africa to start with. I think he'd rather be in mainland Europe, but I think he will hit the ground probably in the Middle East and somewhere like that in the start of the year.
I could see him enjoying the Mauritius test, actually.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think he
sure.
likes the coastal test. Yeah,
And
I could see him going up there.
Yeah, and I think as long as he gets anywhere early, it doesn't matter where it comes or anything he does. I think as long as he hits the ground early and extends that kind of challenge tour form, I'm pretty confident about Lindell and his chances going forward.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to go all the way back to early August to find the last time he finished outside the top 10. Insane.
Absolutely insane. He's just like, as you said, Tom, he's sort of coming of age, but he's only, as you said, 26. He just feels like he's been around forever. It's mad.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those ones, right? Like, I think, it's not quite to the same extreme as Manacero, because obviously Manacero had this massive high and was a 4-time winner, and he's 30 now. But Lindell just had that kind of thing where he made a few starts on the DP World Tour in, I think, 2020, and that was kind of it. During COVID, not a very good time. You go back to like 2018, Nordea Masters, he finished 21st. Go to 2020, 2050 Austrian Open, 18th Euro Bank, 14th the Open to Portugal. Like, the starts that he did make were pretty good. He just didn't get his playing rights, and then for 2 seasons wasn't the consistent player that he was this year. And you go back and the spike finishes. I mean, he had 2 seconds, a third, a fourth, 2 more fifths, a couple of sixths. Like, just absolutely.
I don't think I've ever seen an end to a Challenge Tour season such as that. As good as that, it's just ridiculous.
Well, I think the parallels I'm pretty much quite confident in drawing is the Jesper Svensson one, where I think he finished quite similar to that. I mean, it was as consistent.
It finished quite strong, but I don't think it was as strong as that. But it was still strong, yeah.
I think for me, is he going to be the same player? I don't know, but I think he's one that makes the most obvious parallels, and happy to go for him.
I like it. All right, I'm going to go a little bit more speculative on my end for the selection. I mean, he is near the bottom of the odds, which I guess mid-pack maybe. No, 33-1 for selection of top graduate when it comes to rankings, and perhaps because he was 17th on the Challenge Tour rankings, he's going to have to fight for early spots in the fields that he's going to be playing with. But I'm going to go with 21-year-old Martin Kuvra. Is Kuvra the pronunciation? Am I wrong there?
No,
yeah,
I think
that's how I said Kuvra.
We did this last year, actually. You made some pronunciations and then you asked us, and if you ever listen to me and Brad with the two
we make them up on the spot.
Don't ask us, and I think that sounded pretty cultured.
I think it's Kuvra.
Kuvra sounds good to me.
So at the age of 20 flat, I believe 20 flat, he won as an amateur on the Challenge Tour. He was making his way, leapfrogging after winning both the South African stroke play and the overall amateur championship. And we know those are recipes for success on the professional stage. We have seen so many talented amateurs. I mean, most of them being South African, not French, like Kuvra. And then he took to the Challenge Tour in his first full year and earned status. I mean, to the likes of 7 top 10 finishes for him. He had 2 starts on the DP World Tour, 1 in Mauritius and 1 in South Africa. And he finished 12th in the South African Open there after opening with a 74 and showing some fight at a more difficult test. So for me to look at an amateur profile like that, multiple time winner every year as an AM, to then stepping on immediately on the Challenge Tour with a full season and getting there with upside, he looks like he does from just the early events that we have a lot of off the tee strength in him when he's playing at his best. So I'm more keen to take somebody on a small sample that we might not know enough about that could have a sky high ceiling down the board.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Sorry, Brad. I was just going to say, like, looking at his year last year, you referenced those 2 South African wins and then going on and winning the Open de España as a 20-year-old. Like, he also finished 6th in that Jones Cup Invitational. I think that's really sort of like poignant point to make this week, considering they're playing at the RSM Classic, and everyone kind of references that as a kind of pointer to the RSM, right? And Aberg had won it, and that's why people liked him going into the RSM, and Davis Thompson and all those sort of players played it a lot. And when you look at the one that Kuvra finished 6th in, David Ford, I don't know too much about him, but Caleb Surratt is obviously the live player. Everyone's quite keen to see a bit more of. Gordon Sargent was tied 6th with Kuvra. We know a lot about Jackson Coyven. I think he's been playing on the PGA Tour a little bit. Freddie Ketrup was further down the leaderboard. Like, Luke Clanton 20th. Like, these are players that have made impressions on the PGA Tour. Mathis Bassard was playing 27th on the DP World Tour last year. Barclay Brown we've seen a lot about as well. So some of the names that he was, performing so well against in those kind of fields, he's a real pointer to what he could be, I think.
Yeah, I'm keen. Brad, any more comments on Kuvra?
Oh, no, I was just going to echo. I'm really high on Martin Kuvra. I actually was one of my picks to get graduated last year on the Challenge. I think I was betting him quite early on into the season. Then he sort of faltered, and he finished strong, got the job done. But yeah, really high on him. Obviously, as you mentioned, got a really good amateur career. And not to make a lazy reference, but yeah, Tom Valent, he's come onto the DP World Tour this year. They've got a similar stature. They both don't look like they should be able to hit it far off the tee, but do. And yeah, I just feel like he could have the same sort of impact. Tom Valent got himself in the mix a couple of times this year. He did miss out on the Abu Dhabi Championship in the end, but comfortably kept his card. But yeah, I do feel like he's going to be a mainstay on the DP World Tour and maybe beyond.
Yeah, I'm a fan. And for me, if I look through the other graduates now, there's been a handful of them that have gotten consistent, I would say, DP World Tour starts that, of course, I bet kind of in their spots. Angel Aurora and Brandon Robinson Thompson being the other two that came to mind that I am very excited to kind of see their thoughts. I know, Brad, you've been pretty big on both of those guys too.
Yeah, absolutely, especially BRT. Yeah, Brandon Robinson Thompson has been my guy. I follow him from Clutch Tour to Challenge to DP World Tour in under 2 years. It's quite phenomenal, really. And he's also been qualifying for the majors as well, when he can. So yeah, he grinds hard. He's obviously a late bloomer, has a really contagious, fantastic personality, and he's obviously confident in his ability to compete at this level. So yeah, I'm excited what he can do next year. I think he will be quite limited on some of the tests, but he loves the Parklands course, and if it plays tough, that's even better. So yeah, that's where I'm going to be eyeing him up.
Perfect. Tom, I mean, anybody else that you were close on?
Yeah, so I think for me, like, if it wasn't in doubt, it'd be Christopher Raitan, who won the Challenge Tour Grand Final. And look, these are, again, quite obvious picks, and I'm not going to blow anyone's mind. But the thing I really liked about Raitan is he has got that kind of DP World Tour experience. He had a really good sort of amateur career and was very solid in 2018. Come on to the DP World Tour, finished 5th in the ISPS Hander in Perth, 14th in the Czech Masters, finished the year pretty strong with 18th in France and 21st in Portugal. Then sort of suffered with injuries and things like that, but also had a 5th in the Italian Open in 2020. And when it's always a player that has struggled with injuries, I'm quite sympathetic and want to see where they come back. And I mean, look, I think it goes to himself, right? 3rd in the Open de Bretagne, 7th again when he goes in the Nordic Golf League, 2nd in the Swiss Challenge. He finished the year with 6 straight top 20 finishes and a win in the final tournament. Beats Nirgal Peterson and Angel Aurora, who are going to be the 2 kind of homer picks this year. So the fact that he's just got that little bit of experience and he's got kind of 5th, 18th, 20th on the DP World Tour already, kind of won't be afraid of the stage, I think. So I quite like that, whilst also like Lindell only still being 26 years of age. Because you've got like a real mix of kind of Challenge Tour players here where like Nirgal Peterson looks ready to kind of be one of the best on tour already, I believe. John Parry is someone that's frittered between the 2 tours. And then you've got the kind of Lindells and the Raitans who have played at this level, but they're still pretty young. Ayora's really young. Hamish Brown's still very green. And then you've just got the Jack Seniors and the Alexander Levies and all those types of players that we know everything about. So I quite like that mid-range of like, we don't know everything about them, but we know enough to suggest they can kind of hang around. A little bit like Robin Williams, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I echo your thoughts. Brad, anybody else that we need to discuss?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I could say a bit about Hamish Brown. I really like him, like Scottish Dane. He's done really well. He won.
That's the strangest crossover ever. Like, I couldn't.
I know, right?
I was looking at like Hamish Brown. He had a Denmark flag next to him. I was like, I just don't get this. And it wasn't until I read the story. Sorry to cut you off, Brad.
No, you're right. No, it's a strange name just for a Danish person. But yeah, no, he's really impressed. And yeah, just excited to see what he can do next season without being too overconfident.
Just like a weird one with him, isn't it? Because he had like the 2 wins, and to be fair, also a second and a fourth. Really quite consistent in that respect, in the sense of like when he played well, it was win, second, fourth, fifth, ninth. It's just he doesn't seem to have that same flaw that like a Neergar Peterson or a Parry had last season, where you're going to trust him to make the cut and finish in the upper echelons. It was kind of a bit volatile, which I think you need. I think we'll see something from Hamish Brown next year where he probably has a valiant effort or something like that, where he goes deep into contention at some point, but might struggle out the gates. It's going to be an interesting one.
I do think, looking at the odds though, I think he might actually represent quite a bit of value, because there's a bit of like unknown about him, and he's still a young man. And yeah, I feel like he could surprise a few. So yeah, odds wise, I think he would be a bet.
Yeah, he seemed to be the one that seemed a little outlier position based off the year he had.
Based off the rankings, fifth in the rankings. So yeah,
and 2 wins, right? Like he was 1 win. What was really like quite surprising is I think there was maybe 3 more players that had a chance to get 3-win seasons going into the Challenge Tour Grand Final. He was one of them. I think was Moscatel, another one.
Yeah,
maybe,
he was.
Two. And then maybe even Pinal. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure there was 3 players that had 2 wins already. Maybe it was Purcell. I can't remember who it was now, but there was Purcell. 3 players that had 2 wins. So you almost had you could have almost had 5 players have 3-win seasons, and then so that got me thinking about players that have had like Battlefield promotion to the Challenge Tour, and there's actually quite a lot if you go back, and I haven't got the numbers in front of me, but it's quite surprising how common it was, certainly back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw a tweet going around about that too. That just felt. I mean, Corn Ferry feels like it's won a decade. It's not too much. I guess McCarty did this past year, but not too frequent overall. So let's transition to Q School. So Q School just wrapped up last week. I mean, kudos to these guys, right? They finish Wednesday in Spain, and then they're in the field for the next week in Australia, a decent chunk of them. And I mean, those that are passing either didn't get in or like to make that turnaround is quite quick. Now, it's good for us, I feel like, that it goes Australia, then to South Africa versus simultaneous events. However, it's probably poor for them because they used to get dual opportunities for the first couple of weeks that almost guaranteed that you were going to be teeing it up. So they're going to have to take advantage if they get into the field over the next 5 events. Tom, you said it off the bat, Eduardo Molinari was your winner, which is just wild in the fact that I never know with Dodo, man. It felt like it was done this year, and then all of a sudden back to complete dominance pretty much from the second round on for him there. It was super cool too. We reference Ryan French quite a bit, Monday Q Info, coming full circle to cover the Q School in person, brought to light quite a few stories over there. So it was really neat for him to do that and to follow Ryan as he walked through these guys that graduated onto DP World Tour cards or earned them. Tom, you can go first on this one. Do you want to give a pick of the bunch?
Yeah, so I really like the fact that you referenced Ryan French already, because it's Davis Bryant that I wanted to talk about. I think for me, for someone to break 70 every round of those 6 rounds is really important, right? Like I think that's amazing to keep that kind of consistently going. The fact that he shot 62 on the last day to get his card, I mean, I think he was kind of in good position anyway, but the fact that he's just absolutely floored it and done it is amazing. And this isn't a player that you hear about as this kind of stud amateur, right? Like I think he's pretty well respected. I think it was Colorado that he went to. Like he's had, he's well known locally, but not this kind of superstar player that we kind of hear about the Abergs and that before they even get out and things like that. So he's won a couple of mini tour events already. He missed out just by a couple of shots on the PGA Tour America's Q School. And one of the things I thought was really interesting, he got a sponsored exemption into Morocco. So Mark Baldwin's actually documenting this on Ryan French's site. And he got to the Asian Tour International Series in Morocco, got over there, and he got to the 36th hole, and he had to make the putt to make the cut, and he hit a 7-iron to 10 feet, made the putt. He only finished 55th in the end, but I think just having that kind of experience already is going to stand him in good stead, because he's going to have a lot of situations like that probably for the first few events. He then went the following week and shot 6 under in the Pro-Am at the Wyoming Open, and shot it again to start the round. Then shot, I think, a 62 to then really kick on. And he just had this incredible summer of just really low golf. Comes over to the DP World Tour Q School and dominates that as well. You know, obviously Eduardo Molinari's won it, but the way that he played was phenomenal. I guess the one caveat is that he could go and play Corn Ferry. I think he's through to the second stage of that. But yeah, I'm choosing to remain positive and just hope that he kind of sticks out over here and really impresses.
That was my pick of the bunch. And you probably knew that coming in. For those that really know, how we feel about the mini tour grinders. I mean, Ryan French wrote that article, right? The hottest golfer on the mini tours across the US this past summer. I mean, he was exceptional pretty much everywhere he teed it up. And I mean, those, if I think back through, those that were Corn Ferry Tour and DP World Tour Q School fighting back and forth with shots. I mean, there was basically 3 golfers who got to final stage in both or close to qualifying in both. James Nicklaus, Nicolo Galletti, and Julian Surrey, who continues to be the man of poor luck after he lost out on the Monday qualifier playoff this week. But, I mean, Nicholas and Galletti showed flashes. I think if you're able to compete in both those Q schools with everything on the line, you've got some balls to you. And, I think Bryant hopefully will get some spot starts here in Europe or a full tour membership, because I love it.
Yeah. And I think for me, like with Nicholas, I believe he was a little bit older than kind of Bryant was, right? And I think like he'd been around, struggled a little bit, had sort of like the sort of references last year, like kind of had the Instagram thing going and had different things kind of working for him. As I think Bryant's kind of ready to go, man. And like, I think to your point, like it's going to be the coming out of this kind of ranking and chances to start is going to be what holds them back. But I think it's really important, and maybe I might spoil someone's kind of pick here, but like there's 4 other, there's 4 Americans in total inside the top 12 of this Q School rankings that graduated. Davis Bryant, Riggs Johnston tied 7th, Dan Erickson and Corey Shawn tied 12th as well. There's a real appetite for these young American talents to come over and get their card in this way. And sure, they can go over and get it in Corn Ferry as well. But it's great to see them want to travel and really test their game across the world.
100%. Brad, do you have any thoughts on Bryant?
Oh, no, not other than I'm just really excited to see what he can do, and I really hope he sticks it out over here. Like obviously Tom said that he's in the PGA, well, Corn Ferry Tours Q School over in the States. So yeah, he's got a chance of not, committing to here. But I love the story. That's what we all get excited about, and yeah, let's see. I think it's as Tom just said. I love to see the Americans come over, especially the younger talents like a Riggs Johnston, who was a top amateur at Arizona State, and just, try their luck at Q School. Yeah, it's really cool.
100%. I mean, if we're talking, I guess, young guns, I'll stick with another here and go next. I was worried, and I'm stepping in front of Brad because potentially this guy is on his list too, but I'm betting the AM of the bunch, Jacob Skov Olesen, who I believe might be flipping pro now. I'll have to double check that, but he ended his amateur career pretty much with a bang, right? If you looked at 2024 for him, he had gone first at the amateur championship. He won that in June, and then he was 5th at the European amateur, which that run for him got him in the Open Championship, where as an amateur making the cut, finishing T60, and then in the mix all week long, the next week or the next month in his home country at the Danish Golf Championship. T5 there, made the cut then the following week in the Omega European Masters, and he just pretty much capped off an amazing year. He hadn't been all that strong as an amateur really up to that point. His year prior was okay. He played, where was he playing his college golf? It's the Big 12, was it? Let me double check here. Arkansas, I believe he went to. Yes, Arkansas was where he wrapped up his career. I think he started at TCU. So again, playing American side, getting a little bit comfortable overall with golf, kind of globally, and on those challenging tests like the Open Championship, which it was this year. I mean, he proved out to have some talent. He's a young lefty, so the only fear I have is he had a stranglehold on the Q school right there with Dodo Molinari up there, and Sunday was not pretty for him, as well as a Sunday at the Danish Championship wasn't all that good either. I'm not going to fault two small sample sizes with big things on the line. So I really, really like the upside there.
Yeah, no, I had to. But I was going to say a special mention to Scott Allison because he has, like as you said, he turned it on towards the end of his amateur career, didn't he? Oh, he won the prestigious amateur championship, and he's just gone on from there, and he's just riding. Oh, not that hot hand, but he's just carried on. He's just progressed. I mean, he is an old out. He's 25, isn't he? I say old. I'd love to be 25, but he just looks a great talent, and I like that he's already impressed on the DP World Tour as well. But yeah, I wanted to pick him, but I'm gonna go with Albert Bonetta.
Nice.
Yeah, who I really like. I also like Bastien and Matt. So they're both college teammates out in New Mexico. They both had successful amateur career. Bastien and Matt was the guy. He led the team. He was a top 20 amateur in the world. I think he finished top 10 at the US Amateur. Had a very successful amateur career, but he's had little taste of professional golf. So he's missed a cut at the US Open. He's tied 64th at the Barracuda Championship. So it might take him a little bit of time to adjust. But yeah, as for Albert Bonetta, he's sort of come over. He's been playing the Alps Tour, where he got off to a great start. He finished 6th on his first start on the Alps Tour, and that's when I was like, "Who's this kid?" You know, I didn't know him from Adam at that point, and then I looked him up. I was like, "Oh Christ, he's a good amateur. He's 50-1." I backed him that week, and he won. And he didn't just win; he pissed it. He won by like 4 or 5 strokes. Really impressive, and he's gone on from there. Had a number of good finishes on the Alps Tour, as well as impressed on the Challenge Tour on a few starts that he's had at invitations. Finished 7th at the Czech Challenge. But yeah, it's going to be a big step up, obviously. But he looks another bright talent. And yeah, with his college teammate, Matt, they can travel together, stay together, help each other settle in at this level, which can only be a massive plus. I don't think many people on the tour coming on there have that, right? So I think that's going to be a massive strength for both of them. So yeah, excited about them too. And yeah, I've already mentioned Riggs Johnson as well, who I'm excited about. So yeah, I think just these guys, obviously, they're very young, they're very raw. Ceiling wise, they could be anything. So I think that's why I'm going to go for them.
That's pretty neat with the teammates of those two too. I think that's a fun story to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom, anybody, if you rip through a little bit, you're interested beyond who we've discussed so far?
It's a completely opposite end of the scale in career, but Justin Harding has been hurt for so long, and then lost form, and then injuries again, and all sorts. And he had he showed a little bit of life to me towards the end of this DP World Tour season. Played some good golf. So just the fact that he managed to get his card and make sure he's back on there in spot starts, he's obviously the sort of player that's going to get invites when they're available as well. So I'd be really interested to see what he does. Famously, what did he finish, like 12th at the Masters at one point? I think he was right up in the mix there. He's top 20 of the Open Championship, 2-time winner on a DP World Tour, one in Qatar and Kenya. He's also lost another playoff. So that's an interesting one in terms of like, how does a veteran come back and do? I mean, I think with someone like Molinari, I think we know what to expect. Like, he's going to have a couple of decent starts. The putter's going to get in the way, and he's going to focus on the Ryder Cup. Whereas someone like Harding, like, he's all in. I guess the other one, like Joshua Berry, is still one of the youngest players on the tour, right? And Gregorio De Leo, Brad, is someone that you obviously bet on a couple of times, I think, on the Challenge Tour. Like, for him to finish the way that he did in that season, then qualify, I think was quite impressive. So those would be the other couple that I had Scott Olsen down, as you guys did. That's obviously a different thing. And the one thing I like about Scott Olsen is, to your point, Sky, about, it's worrying that he kind of, didn't play very well in the final round of Q School and didn't play very well in the final round of Danish golf. But whereas like someone like Davis Bryant, where we're kind of excited about what he can do, and Benita and Matt and people like that we don't know enough about because we don't have that scar tissue, I'd almost look at Scott Olsen and go, look, he had a couple of bad rounds under really big pressure, like you said, but he's been there and he's done that. He's gone through that already as an amateur. Like, if he can kind of perform better the next time and even just hang around for 5 or 6 holes longer this time and then get better again, he's going to do it at such a young age that it really won't matter. Even these very best players that win early still have a bad experience at some point. It's just that they get it out of the way early, and I think that's what Scott Olsen's done.
Yep, 100%. Did Brad? I was trying to look through. I think I'm wrong. Amat, when he got in the Barracuda, was that because he won on the Asher Tour, or was that just a random exemption? I was trying to find that.
Do you know what? I couldn't tell you, mate. I honestly don't know. I just remember
you're only one of the people I could even ask that question who would understand what I'm even asking. But
yeah,
I would just go, nice to see. Like,
that's the kind of thing I would normally know and we'd normally discuss before an event, but I think I might have missed that one.
I don't think so. I'm scanning through. I don't see him on there. The only person I see a bunch of who sadly did not make it through Q School was Charles Ryder. He would have been fun. He might be in second stage though on the Corn Ferry.
Yeah,
actually.
I bet him on. I bet him in the first. I think I bet him in the first Q School event, which I bet price up. And he just finished outside the places, but I think none of the courses really suit him because he can hit it. He'd be probably the biggest hitter. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. He probably hits it further than Rory. And yeah, I just don't think the courses he played he's probably taking iron off the tee a lot of the time, wasn't he? So
yeah, I do believe one of your guys is playing second stage stateside too, right? Amat is in second stage.
Is he?
For Corn Ferry Tour too. So there's a chance there as well.
That's a chance.
Do you know, I just want to sort of flag here as well is that, and I don't think anyone sort of questions the needs to do this sort of show. It's one, if we just enjoy it and hopefully other people do too. But like, one of the things I want to really drill down on the importance of it is if you look at last year's graduates from the Challenge Tour, 2 of them won. Matteo Manacero won the Johnson Whitewear. Jesper Svensson won the Singapore Classic. Jesper Svensson had 2 more runners-up, and Hugo Cassar was also a runner-up in the Qatar Masters. And then you look at the Q School as well. You had Darius Van Driel and David Rivetto win. You had Joe Dean twice a runner-up, Darren Fickart a runner-up, Renato Paratore and Kiradek Afibama runner-up. I know there, at least a couple of those in Paratore, Fickart and Afibama we knew enough about, but Joe Dean
was the pick of Q School, wasn't he?
Like, came out of nowhere and had 2, great, runner-up finishes. He played well, pretty consistently. He did well at the Open, right? Like, he really caught the eye, and that came from Q School. And so when we see these players, we go, do you know what? We don't know too much about them. They've been around for a little while. That's kind of like a Ben Schmidt or something. Like, I don't know anything really too much about him. I know that he's kind of one of the Yorkshire contingent and stuff like that, but that's just from sort of reading Ben's profile on him. Like, I don't know too much about him, but is he going to be? I don't think he's going to be the Joe Dean of the group, but that's why.
Sorry, mate.
Ben Schmidt.
Ben Schmidt. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, like just making sure, and the other thing I wanted to flag from that as well, if you look at, you talk about fast starts, Guy. Jesper Svensson, runner-up on the 3rd of December 2023, runner-up on 4th of February 2024. Hugo Cassard, runner-up on 11th of February, and then Matteo Manacero and Jesper Svensson both win in March. Darius Van Driel wins in February. Darren Fickart, runner-up in November. Paratore, runner-up in December. Joe Dean, runner-up in February. Afibama, runner-up in March. Like, those first few months are critical. Like, you need to get off to a fast start if you're in these groups to have any sort of chance of kind of progressing. One, because you need to keep your rankings and make sure you're getting the reshuffles. But 2, like, it's very quick. Like, the loss of confidence, if you get a player that's been on the Challenge Tour and absolutely tearing it up and then has 5 or 6 events he can't sniff a cut, like, you're going to drop through the floor. And this is what happens with people. And I mean, I think we were pretty good at identifying the ones that didn't happen to last year, but with Valiant and Svensson and etc. But it's not easy. It really isn't easy. The margins are so razor thin that getting off to that quick start and believing in yourself so early is really important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The only one that I was going to mention too, Tadeusz Titak, I believe would be how you pronounce
Yeah.
it, from Slovakia.
Mhm.
He has, I would say he's probably the best player coming off the Pro Golf Tour. Believe he was second or third on the order of merit there. He won twice on that tour this year, included with 4 other top 5 finishes for him. And he's gotten spot starts on the Challenge Tour back to when he was 20 years old as an amateur. He finished
Mhm.
11th in the Urim Bank Open as a 20-year-old in college for him, and then he bounced back the next year with 2 other top 30s on the Challenge Tour. Has played, I would say, decent in some starts as an amateur. Nothing like super eye popping, but again, I do really like sustained success on a mini tour or a feeder tour, and that's what he's kind of shown a progression with.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna mention him as well. I've actually speak to him quite a bit on Instagram. He's one of those who chats back when I ask him about an event or talk to him, wish him the best. 'Cause I bet him quite a lot. And yeah, I think he was at Florida, wasn't he? For college. But yeah, he's had a really good season. Yeah, he had a good year the year before, but missed out on getting his Challenge Tour card. This year, he's just taken charge, and he won the final event. So yeah, no, he's someone I'm going to be looking out for results wise this year. And also another one to mention is Gene Bakarian. He's another one that would be playing on the Challenge Tour last year, so we had a bit of a free hit to see how he was going to do in the Q School, and he's finished 11th. Tied 10th with Berry. He's won twice. They've got him down as Armenian here, but I think it's a dual nationality. I think he's a French Armenian. I don't know what he's going to take up. Pretty cool if he keeps Armenian flag there. I will like seeing the new nations pop up on the tour. I mean, Tadeusz Tetak, he's another one, Slovakian. It's cool to see these nations come onto the tour. That's a bit of color and fruitfulness.
I think he said he was playing under Armenian to be like a shot at the Olympics. Like that's kind of his goal, I believe, or maybe I was reading through the lines of that. So that's pretty cool.
Sense. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and there was really an Albanian who I didn't know too much about at all. That Zali, who put up a great. He finished with a 65. He come up with a couple short. A shot short. But that would have been a massive story. That would have been a huge story. I think he played out in Canada on the tour over there, on mini tours as well. So yeah, I didn't know anything about him before this Q School. So yeah.
We didn't mention a ton about the other Americans, Dan Erickson and Corey Sean. They weren't. I mean, Dan Erickson's been around Sunshine Tour for a while, or playing in South Africa. Not too much promise. I think I'd be betting on Riggs Johnson to be the one, my favorite of the Americans, I believe.
Yeah, me too. I don't know much about Corey Sean.
Yeah, it didn't seem like anything relevant as of late for him. I think he won on the Canadian Tour or Mackenzie Tour when it used to be that way. But and then some big names, right? Like Wilco's got a full-time year. I'll be super curious how Wilco does with full schedule. I'm still not a believer after all this time, but still would like to see it kind of come through on a big stage. So bummer for a few guys just missing out. Eddie Pepperell, probably the guy that we all root for the most, missing out by a shot there. But overall, I think that's a really good rundown from both the Q School and Challenge Tour. So we're going to go into the final segment. But before then, want to make sure we give a shout out to all of our audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. Mayo Media Network supports us largely across all of their platforms. The comments, the subscribes, the likes go a long way. And Tom's also going to upload this on his Lost for Words feed. So you can find him there at Tom Jacobs 93 on Twitter, and we mentioned at Bradley_Todd there. You can find him too. So to close out, we'll go around the horn. We're going to pick the top 10 PGA or top 10 non-holding PGA Tour card members. Honestly, that might even be stretching it because Thorbjorn renewed his card while still having a PGA Tour card. But remember, those top 10 guys in the DP World Tour go to the PGA Tour next year. So our selection here is who we think will be one of those top card holders. Like Tom mentioned off the show, last year we picked Rasmus Højgaard. I picked Kita Nakajima, and then Brad had picked Dan Bradbury. So 1 for 3 there. Brad, would you like to go first on this segment?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to go with Sam Bairstow. So I picked him last year as I think my best newcomer coming off the Challenge Tour. And yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to come as a shock to anyone that knows me. I'm a massive fan of Sammy Bairstow. He's had a great year. He's got himself in the mix to win a number of times. He had his chances early on into the season in Bahrain and Qatar. 2 final rounds cost him there. But it gave him experience. He got better in contention in Singapore. He was second going into the final round, finished third. And he also gave himself a chance stateside at the ISCO Championship. He was 4th going into the final round, closed around a 70, finished 6th. And then again, end of the season, Open to France, finished runner-up there. So considering it was his first year and first time seeing a lot of these courses, it was a seriously impressive season from him. And he also got himself into the DP World Tour Championship, where he finished a credible 14th last week. And he finished 36th, in the overall rankings. So I think that's a bloody good first season. He's coming into the next season, this season, with a bunch of experience, and we know what to expect from him. He's a brilliant ball striker who's fearless with his shot selections. He can hit it an absolute mile when he needs to, and he's a gutsy putter. So, yeah, I think he does need to improve around the greens. But other than that, I think there's a lot to like. I'm predicting him to get a win quite early into the season. I like him for the Qatar Masters, but he might well have won by then. So, yeah, Sam Bairstow is my pick to get a PGA Tour card next season.
One round from last year stands out to me from Sam Bairstow, and people might not think of this round. So for me, when I look at it, it is I'm trying to pull up his exact score on it. We talked about this, Tom. Do you remember this round?
Yeah.
It's his second round at the US Open he had last year. So Bairstow went out in 84 on Thursday, dead in the water, even at a US Open, right? And round 2 came back with, I believe, the round of the day, or one of the best rounds on a difficult Pinehurst, 67 on that Friday. So that to me just said a lot about his personality and the way he can bounce back. I mean, he missed the cut still by like 6 strokes that week. Yeah. And that to me showed some guts there from him.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it was the second best round, if I remember rightly. It was just phenomenal bounce back. Yeah, it just shows what he's all about.
Yep. Tom, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so I've approached this in a pretty systematic way, and it's not as exciting, right? But I've got the kind of one pick, and it's Jordan Smith. And the reason being, if we go back to 2023, the first 2 players to miss out on the PGA Tour cards were Rasmus Højgaard and Tristan Lawrence. And this year, Rasmus Højgaard finishes second in the race to buy the first PGA Tour card. Tristan Lawrence finishes third. He went into the final event, the only person who can catch Rory McIlroy. So the 2 that missed out so cruelly in 2023 have come right back and finished top 2 in those not already exempt. And when you look this year, Jordan Smith was the last player to miss out. He finished just shy, I think it was like 10 points behind Tom McKibben. So that was him in 19th place. And then the year before, he was actually also in 27th. He was 24th going into the final event. And I think it was 17th for Hitsasune that got in. So twice now he's been pretty close. And look, I think where Smith struggles is that he doesn't quite have the pop weeks like an Antoine Rosner did, where it looks like he could actually win. He seems to have those steady kind of 15th, 16th, 18th, 24th, and there's a real flaw to his game. But he must look at this and go, look, there's 5 other challengers that have gone away. He's going to start events near on favourite or close to it quite often in these regular events, and just a steady hand. And we kind of talked about it a couple of times. I think all three of us in different shows. Like, he is probably made for PGA Tour golf and could play really good stuff out there. He's played well in majors and things like that. So I think looking at it, I think it will rely on him getting a win, which is always tough to see with Jordan Smith, but it does look like he's finding that and challenging for it. So I think Jordan Smith, for me, based on what happened last year with the two people to miss out, then immediately got them the next year, and they were the top two finishes as well. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, I mean, I think you took the easy way out, but also probably the correct way out.
Yeah, like I think, like for me, like I've obviously got a couple of other long shot sort of picks, but like if the name of the game is who is going to get that PGA Tour card, I think it's him. And that's why I did it with Højgaard last year, and I think this is the smart one. Sky, I'll let you come into kind of your pick before I go into any further.
Yeah, it's tough because I could go a few directions here. I think with based off of odds this week, kind of is my line for long shot overall. But I am going to redirect and go with somebody maybe a little bit safer. And I mean, I think Joe Dean is the guy for me. I think Joe Dean is not who I really think of and wake up and say, like, that's the golfer that I believe in the most from a skill overall standpoint. But that guy delivered all year long from the Q school angle of being able to fight and show how, you can earn your card and earn a spot almost on the PGA Tour straight from Q school. 37th last year. He finished 25th at the Open Championship, where he was inside the top 10 at the halfway point, a runner-up in the playoff at the KLM Open. He lost by a stroke at the Kenya Open, or 2 strokes to Van Driel. Sudal Open, right? Top 5. I don't think he is the best for PGA Tour golf. I think that's a difference, though. You don't have to be good at the PGA Tour to make it to the PGA Tour, right? But then you look through where he played well at, like Golf National, Sudal, Rinkvin, right? Magical Kenya, tight course there. KLM wasn't something you really overpowered too much if you looked at the names up there, right? He has a type of course that does well, and those tighter type of tracks are frequented on the DP World Tour. And now they probably can breathe a sigh of relief and overall have a full status ahead of him. And I trust him in these links in tough conditions. He did that at the Open Championship. He won the Amateur Championship, I believe, or one of the bigger links. We've looked this up, Tom, right? Events way back when, before he had the stretch of pro golf of what he's had now. So that would be my pick of the nearer top 10 guys.
I think so. There's a couple of interesting points for Joe Dean. One, he finished 37th with 19 starts, which, if you look at someone really in that similar sort of boat, was Laurie Cantor, as someone that finished ahead of him. Like, there's people that had way fewer starts but then got higher up in the ranking with major finishes and things like that. Interestingly, like, Joe Dean had to have a hypnotherapist to travel. He was so worried about traveling at any point. I just read his sort of player blog while you were talking there, because I sort of remember him talking about this at some point, and he was so worried about that final hole at qualifying school last year because he was just worried he was going to travel. And he signed up for the South African events, pulled out because it was such a quick turnaround, was worried about it, so he had the hypnotherapy and got it done. So that, I think, in itself is kind of like he's overcome that, then played really good golf. I don't think PGA Tour golf is anywhere near what he wants, but he is the type of player that's going to have to just go out there because it's life changing, right? Like, he's not someone like a Campillo or a Robert McIntyre or someone like that. I mean, McIntyre's gone on and changed, but like, both of those were pretty reluctant at one point. Campillo said literally, like, if you won it again this year, he wouldn't go. They've won enough already and made enough money in the DP World Tour. They can kind of sustain it and pick and choose whether they want to play there or not, can believe in limited starts and get in majors. Joe Dean would just need to grasp the opportunity. So I think that's a blessing and a curse, right? Like, I think there's two reasons for it. But yeah, I think the way that he performed straight out the gates off of Q School is really impressive.
Yeah, no, another point on Joe Dean is that when he did go in for Q School in 2023, he wasn't even playing on any tour consistently. He was playing like one-day events on like the 1836 tour or the 2020 tour. It's just phenomenal. He just showed up for 6 rounds. Well, and the rounds before that, the Q School stage 2 and 1, and it's just, the story is absolutely unbelievable. Like, he's just come in with like not that much competitive action over like a 4 to 6 rounds. It's just, the result was unreal, and the way he's sort of come out and had that season is even cooler. I think he could definitely go on this season and improve on that, no doubt about it.
So long shots. We'll go right around the horn. Tom, you can go up first.
Yeah, so I think this is a bit cheating again, but I feel like if you jump from the Challenge Tour to the PGA Tour in one season, I think that kind of counts. I think Neergar Peterson's going to do it. I think he's going to absolutely replicate what Jesper Svensson did. He's already got the backlog of DP World Tour contention that Jesper Svensson didn't have. I think he'll hit the ground running. I think he'll win early. And I think he'll sustain that kind of period of form all the way along. I think even if he didn't win, I think he'll play consistently enough throughout the year that he'll get the PGA Tour card. So I guess there's a couple of lines of thinking on that. Like, he's the favourite to be the best Challenge Tour graduate. Does that mean that he should be in the running for the 10 cards? Jesper Svensson suggests yes, but I don't think that was the case in 2023, right? Like, I don't remember any of the kind of Challenge Tour guys getting it. So I don't think it's a certainty by any means. And I think for me that would be my long shot. But if we wanted kind of like a couple of fruitier names, I think someone like Frederick Lacroix, that had a win at the Danish Golf Championship, 2 third-place finishes, Chet Masters and Raz Al Khaimah. I quite like that. And then the other sort of coin, another Frenchman, Adrien Sadier, has played a couple of good events in America now, hasn't he, when they do those co-sanctioned events. And someone that found a little bit more in his game as the season went on, had a decent run of form at one point. I think his best finish was 3rd. He had another 4th to 10th place finish as well. So Sadier just finding a bit of consistency, finished top 20 in the Abu Dhabi Championship, top 20 in France, Dunhill Links. Like, that's a steady amount of form, and they would be my couple that I think if I had to kind of go real long shots, they would be on my radar.
I think your definition of real long shots is a little bit different than Brad and I's definition at times. We like to add an extra 0 or 2 to our selections.
Like a 12-year-old that hasn't actually turned pro yet, and I just I don't have that depth of knowledge and don't want to embarrass myself, and 2, like I feel like Lacroix and Sadier are long enough, but
you're plenty good. Plenty good with it. I thought you could throw a curveball in there and say like Sergio or one of these live guys that have now, paid their fines, getting suspended, PGA Tour and live combined by this time next year, and you hit a home run. Like I saw that angle being played potentially there, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done my live cheering for a while. I think I'm fine with the comments, but that, like, in a separate point, and not to derail us too much, like, there is so much that can happen in the next 2 or 3 months. And when Rory came out and made the comment about Elon Musk being the smartest person in the world and Donald Trump being able to resolve things now that he's in the presidency again, was scoffed at, right? Like, what's Rory saying? It's unnecessary. Elon Musk is not the smartest person in the world. 1, maybe he's not the smartest person in the world, but he's definitely very smart. And 2, like, forgetting about Donald Trump as just a golf enthusiast, he's also got the power to change the politics behind it. And the Department of Justice. Nice that Matt raised a good point on our podcast yesterday. Like, having that position and getting someone that's more in his line of thinking is quite important. So when you see them out on the golf course straight after the election win, and then at UFC again, I predict this is going to happen pretty quickly. You've seen Sergio and all those people start paying their fines and reapply so they can qualify for the Ryder Cup, and that's not gone down particularly well. But I think we're very much nearing that resolution. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know. I don't know if it means that there's a couple of lines of thinking. I think someone like Sergio is really keen to qualify for the Ryder Cup. Do Westwood, Poulter, and Stenson really care anymore? I don't think so. I think they would be fine just playing as the Majestics for the rest of their life if they had to, as long as the money's coming in. So I think there's different kind of motivations for every player. But I think about kind of like a Laurie Cantor. You've spoken really highly of him, like coming back from Live, where he was just playing as a reserve. He was just desperate to make forge a really good career for himself. Like, there are players that are still highly motivated to do well. I'm sure someone like a Calais Samoya and people like that would be really keen to get their careers back on track. So once it opens back up again, which it will, there's definitely a story there.
Yeah, without a doubt, and probably a big discussion or a pod in itself, like you guys kind of talked through some.
For sure. Like I like, and it would be really interesting to do, because no one, like the three of us, wouldn't agree 100% on everything, right? And I think that's really important. I think when we go on to Twitter or X or whatever we want to call it, Blue Sky, whatever it is now, you can build an echo chamber and you think everyone agrees, right? Everyone hates Live and everyone supports this and X amount, right? And then you get the people that there's the people that shout the loudest are the Live people and all those sort of things. It becomes kind of a knock-on effect, and actually that's quietened down so much over the last probably 6 to 8 months. I think maybe probably since the Masters, where it's like, okay, well these players can still compete in the majors. We can't hold that against them anymore. Bryson winning one, Brooks winning one, etc. So we can't hold that against them anymore. 2, people are just so fed up with the product. Like nothing is improved. Nothing is improved really for the PGA Tour. Live's not going to change. The DP World Tour's had to make sacrifices. And one of the things that I think what really lost is the DP World Tour was incredibly engaging this season. There was unbelievable events, massive finishes, huge storylines. Like I always come back to the Matteo Manacero one, but for me that was one of the best, right? Like seeing him come back to what he was. We've had Nakajima win, a huge talent. To me, the DP World Tour, and then you have Paul Waring win at twilight of his career so well. You get the crowning moment of Rory McIlroy winning and doing all of that. But I think for me, it's just let's get it back on track, and whatever it shapes out to be, as long as everyone can kind of play everywhere, we'll be better for it.
I think we all just want the best players to be playing it more frequent than they get to do right now together. I think to sum it up, I'm gonna, because we could go on quite a tangent, I'm gonna slide it to Brad for his selections here of long shots.
My long shot, right? Okay, I'm gonna go with Casey Jarvis.
Brad, you stole it from me.
You're kidding me? Are we on the same guy?
Yes, I loved it.
Great minds as always. All right, well, I'll lead off and then you can add whatever. But yeah, I think it's easy to forget that he's only 21 years old, right? He's had a very solid first year of the DP World Tour, like nothing spectacular, but he's made plenty of cuts, got experience in contention. He led a strong field in Japan going into the final round, shot 74, ended up finishing 18th. He got in the mix again towards the end of the season in South Korea. I was on him that week. And yeah, I feel like he'd have learned a lot and gained a lot of experience this season. And he has 2 events coming up in South Africa where I feel like he'll be looking to make a strong start to his season. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get in contention in one of those. And if he ended up winning that could, like one of those, then that could set him up for a big year with potential to get his card at the end of it. So yeah, I think he'd be my long shot.
This is an evolution to a player, right? I mean, you start at a stud 18-year-old like he was when he was playing on the Big Easy Tour after an amazing amateur career. It took a while for him to knock that one off. And then you go on to the Sunshine Tour, and I don't even think he actually has an official Sunshine Tour victory in his belt.
He could have won bundles. Right? He could have won bundles.
Second at the Tour Championship was his best 2023, but he did win on the Challenge Tour that year. And he's the king of, 36-hole first page of a leaderboard, right? Like that's what Casey Jarvis has done. And we've just not seen him come through. I mean, I can remember that Dan Bradbury win. And that's kind of my favorite thing from this show that we've ever done. Bradbury was a highlight that we talked about a couple of years ago, won that first event out of the gates that I had bet on, I think 200 or maybe even 300.
You were on him. It was a great
and
win.
it was a 1-2 at the turn when I had both of them, both Bradbury and Jarvis on the card at long odds. And that was kind of the start of some eyes on there. And what we've seen out of his evolution at the end of the season was his irons are now showing a consistency that he hadn't really had. So if that's going to sustain, absolutely sky's the limit. So I've got another one in the wheelhouse I can pick here. And
Right.
this is where it kind of was a fringe, to me, almost a little bit of a favorite. But if you ask anyone, the typical person who's following golf probably has heard of the name, but isn't familiar. One of the better things that I think the DP World Tour does is offer order of merit leaders from other tours consistent exemptions for a season long. Ryan Van Velzen's the one on the Sunshine Tour. Minkyu Kim is the one from the Korean PGA Tour, who I actually like quite a bit too. He's not going to be my selection. I'll go a little bit chalkier with it, but they also added an amateur into the ability for, I think it's the global amateur rankings or something similar like that, where basically the top amateur in the world left his college season halfway through as a sophomore to guarantee that he wouldn't fumble his top ranking to jump to the DP World Tour right away. And that's Wen Yi Ding. He is 40-1 in Australia this week. So that's why I say he could have gone, because that's pretty similar price to a Bairstow or other guys that I was kind of thinking of in some of these events. But Wen Yi Ding is I believe only 20 years old right now, and he's done just about everything you would have asked for somebody of his age to then make the leap to the professional career. Data Golf has him already as the 222nd ranked golfer in the world. He's 19 years and 11 months, so he turned 20 anytime now. And so far, I mean, he did get an exemption to the Pro Tour where he missed the cut, finished 11th at the Challenge Tour, where I believe he went off near favorite that week. Same thing, Asian Tour 13th 2 weeks ago for him. He had won the Asia Pacific Amateur. If you're looking at events, of ones that have that profile, he also absolutely dominated the Amera, I think it's the Amera Airy Intercollegiate earlier on this year. And then as a freshman, I mean, he was quite strong. He had top 25, the Singapore Open, still as an 18-year-old. He's just done everything you'd ask for him. The odds reflect how good of a player he is and how they're pricing him. And it would not, I mean, it's a long shot, sure, but it just would not shock me if he gets a PGA Tour card.
No, I completely agree with you, this guy. And he's also on this week. He did open at quite a big number, but he's also had a bit of experience in Australia. I think it was his first Asia Pacific Amateur Championship. I think he finished second. He's obviously won it this year. But so he's had some experience in Australia before, so I think that will put him in good stead going into this week. So he might even come out hot this week and cause some damage early on. Who knows? He's a really exciting talent.
So I think the combined age of my three selections is the same age as Paul Waring, so that's pretty decent overall.
Sounds about right.
and one of them just nearly won the whole DP World Tour. So
yes.
Good old Paul Waring. I can't rib him for his bald head anymore. What I did like about Paul Waring is he looks like the youngest old man I've ever seen.
He does.
He looks great. Like if you look at him from afar, you think, God, he's 50 years old. You look at him up close, the guy's in shape. The Dubai tan obviously helps, and I'm sure when you're winning, you look better. But he fantastic, Paul Waring. So just add a notch to the Paul Waring fan club there. But on Wen Yi Ding, I completely get it. I mean, Ben Coley's obviously been talking about him for a couple of years, and generally put him up a couple of times, and I think it's just a really exciting wrinkle again, right? But like you say, they're giving those kind of spots and pathways to it. And this is just things that if they don't do anything for a couple of events, they just go missing and the story goes missing. Like if Nakajima didn't win in India or whatever, like the story would have just... I don't think there was actually enough made about Nakajima last year. Like there was this big thing that he was going to be a star of... what's the Netflix show? Full Swing, right? And I don't think he ever even appeared on it. And then, he obviously won in India and everyone was quite excited about it. And then we just didn't hear again. And I know he didn't do an awful lot, but he was there. He got to the DP World Tour Championship, right? And I think it's really important that we stick with these stories. And that's, I guess, a job of ours. We can put it on ourselves to do that. But like Manu Gandas, for someone like, for example, we were really high on him, coming off India and those sort of things, and they just go by the wayside if they don't get off this huge start. Van Velzen will be another one. If he doesn't do well in the first couple of South African events, it'll be like, what are we talking about now? Like and some people warrant it. Like if the people who fall off a cliff are not very good, like that's absolutely fine. But I think with when you're doing it, it'll be different. So looking forward to that.
Just another one, Sky. Sorry,
ahead,
mate. I know that you mentioned. I know that you mentioned Min-Kyu Kim. I think it is quite. He's a very notable mention because he's had that experience. So I think he come over at a really young age, played on the Euro Pro Tour, won twice in 2017. So he come over from Korea. He spent a lot of time in England. Got his promotion to the Challenge Tour. Won on the Challenge Tour. The Czech Challenge, and then went on to have a good season. I think he had a couple more top fives, and he started getting a couple of starts on the DP World Tour. I don't think he quite made it to the DP World Tour, but he had a top 10 at the Australian PGA Championship, this event, in 2019. So I think if he comes over and plays as often as he should do, I think he should come over because he's got that experience in Europe. And yeah, Min-Kyu Kim could be one to watch this year for sure.
31st Open this year.
So that stood out to me. That was exactly what you were saying, Brad. Or Tom. He finished 31st the Open Championship. So I like to always listen. I don't know how much you guys see him stateside here, but Matt Gannon does a podcast, Visserix Golf. It's called. Him and Adam Adam Kirk, they go like boots on the ground to all the majors across, always just to give like a podcast of what they're seeing, like practice rounds. And it will always stick out to me. They said Min-Kyu Kim was the best ball striker they have ever seen. Like those practice rounds leading up to the Open was unbelievable. And then he showed up with a T31 at the Open Championship, somebody that nobody knows, besides us sickos that at least have familiarity with him. Right. And then he does that after they see some eyeballs on him. That was an immediate radar. So I think if I was going to go long shot of it, like Jarvis, Ding, and then Min-Kyu Kim were the three on my list.
Completely agree. I think that'll be my three as well.
Perfect. Well, we've gone hour and 20. I thank you both for your time. I mean, this is, one of my favorite shows that we get to do all year long. Tom, I mean, we may, I don't want to guarantee any other shows for the rest of the year. If you see us pop back up, it's a bonus. What we've normally done is kind of highlight a lot of guys that we're interested in the rest of the year. We'll all have our betting cards still posted. Tom will have his articles on Odds Checker. Brad has some of his selections with Tom on Lost for Words. And then Brad also has an awesome Patreon where you can find his full load of selections, not just PGA Tour and European Tour, but if you also are betting, globally, Brad covers everything that you got there. So any other things from you two that you'd like to promote or say before we close out?
I can just assure you that Brad will be the hardest working golf tipster in December because everyone else is just looking forward to having some time off, right? I think what's really important, Sky, as you said, like having that time off is quite key, I think, for us in December. And me and Brad will probably do a little bit of the same in December. It'll be very ad hoc. If we feel really strongly about an event, we'll go to that. Me and Matt have already kind of said that there's no PGA Tour golf after this week, so we're kind of going to step back from there. And this, I always look forward to this now. Like we've done this 3 years in a row now, or at least definitely the last 2 years, and I really like this in its own isolation. I think this is a perfect way to go, do you know what? Let's see what happens over the next month or two and actually try and enjoy the golf. And I will probably bet less over the next couple of events, 2 or 3 events. It'd be a bit more of a watching brief. I'll probably have a look this week just because there is still some stuff on with the RSM. But yeah, going into December, I'll definitely take a step back and probably just learn a bit more about the golfers. I think that's probably the way to do it. So my advice would be not to force hands too much over the months. Of course, when Brad puts out a selection on a Monday, make sure you jump on it so he doesn't miss out on winning some money. But for me, I just want to find out the most I can about these golfers now and really establish out. We've given, at the moment, I'm kind of going with the safest picks, but there's going to be someone that's going to break through from that pack in 2 or 3 events, and all of a sudden we've got a new golfers to learn about. I will say, like this week, I'm quite excited to see what Elvis Smiley does in Australia. He's a player that has been on the radar for a lot of people for a few years now at a young age, and then I think he maybe won one of his first events on the Australian tour. Brad, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I think like 2 of them, right? It was
Yeah.
a lot, really.
Yeah, like that was like his first one, you know, for a while, and I'm really excited to see what he will do. I guess me and Brad may funnel some picks into the end of our podcast feed on Lost for Words and just confirm who we're betting at the RSM and the Australian PGA. But other than that, Sky, I think that's over and out from me for the 2024. And just to thank you, I guess, you know, I'm rambling here a little bit, but just to thank you to everyone for listening. I mean, you know, we've had different periods of time off. Sky went traveling for a couple of months, and what's really, you know, appreciated is that you always come back and you always listen to this and support it. And you know, we would do it anyway. I mean, me and Brad have quite a lot of conversations about Lost Words and talking about, you know, I never look at the kind of figures other than just needing to know what they are listening wise, but like just knowing that people are coming back and still interested makes it worthwhile. But 2, you know, the 3 of us would talk about this regardless. We just happen to put a camera and a microphone on for the hour and a half that we're doing it. So, you know, thank you for making it all worth it for the people to listen. Hopefully we gave you some value again this year.
No, for the love of the game. I mean, I think that's why we all do what we do and how we all naturally found each other too. You know, I think that's part of the lifeblood of what we love to do. Brad, any closing words from your end?
No, I just want to thank you both for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I love speaking golf with you both. And yeah, I can't wait to see how we've done this year with our selections. Obviously we did okay last year. I reckon I'm feeling a bit more confident this year, but that's always we'll see. There's always a few surprises, but you know, thanks again for having me on. Always enjoy it.
Yes, 100%. I appreciate you both taking the time. Tom, it's been a pleasure as always having our show together for the year. We will plan on seeing you all in 2025 to kick off the DP World Tour. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you all, and we will see you in the new year. Take care.